The Pico 4 is finally here. But is it worth it, and how good is it really compared to the Quest 2? That is exactly what we're gonna be discussing today. So make sure you completely destroy that like button on your way in. And with that said, let's get right into it. The new VR headset called the Pico 4 is trying to create some big competition for the headsets from Meta, both for the hardware and software combined. But let's start at the headset itself, with one of the most important things being the weight and form factor, because the first thing you will notice is that the Pico 4 is a much smaller headset, and this is all thanks to their new pancake lenses, which make the headset overall look a lot more slimmer and lighter. And this is exactly what is also expected for the Quest Pro. But this isn't the only way that Pico reduced the weight of the visor, because just like its predecessor, they housed the battery in the rear of the strap, making it a lot less front heavy. And that is why so many Quest 2 users actually use an Elite strap or battery pack to counter this weight balance. So in weight and form factor, the Pico 4 definitely scores some points, which gets us to one of the most important things on a VR headset, being the resolution and field of view. At the moment, the Quest 2 uses a single 3664 by 1920 LCD panel. And keep in mind that a headset with a single panel can't utilize all the pixels, because there will be an unused gap between the lenses itself. So that means that the actual resolution per eye is actually less than 1832 by 1920, where the Pico 4 headset is using two LCD panels instead, one for each eye, with a resolution of 2160 by 2160. On top of that, it will also be rocking a field of view of 105 degrees.
Hey, that's pretty good.
But Meta actually didn't provide any official field of view numbers. But by trying it out myself, I do have to say that the Pico 4 has a slightly bigger field of view, although by a very small margin. But just like before, also on the resolution and field of view department, the Pico 4 scores some big points, which gets us to the IPD adjustment. Now each person has a slightly different distance between their eyes, and this is known for interpupillary distance. And when your headset's lenses aren't closely aligned with your eyes, the image can actually turn out to be very blurry. So to counter this, the Quest 2 offers 3 preset lens separation options that you can switch to manually, where the Pico 4 uses a motorized version where you can set your IPD adjustment manually, and where the lenses will then move themselves to match your input, making it also more accurate and adjustable than the 3 settings option. But that gets us probably to the biggest and most important new feature, and that is the pass-through. Because on the Quest 2, it is possible to use its corner tracking cameras for pass-through. This means that you can actually see your real-life space while keeping your headset on. And because this was originally intended for the room setup, the cameras have a low resolution and don't support color. But with the new Pico 4, they integrated a 5K RGB camera, which can create a color pass-through. And although it is far from perfect, it is a notable step up from the black and white on the Quest. But of course, another big piece of the puzzle is the chipset and RAM. Both the Pico 4 as well as the Quest 2 are powered by the same Qualcomm Snapdragon XR2 chip, meaning there is no big difference in these chipsets itself. While there are talks that the XR2 chip from Pico is a version that is not underclocked compared to the XR2 from the Quest, this is not officially confirmed. But it is true that the Quest 2 has a 6GB RAM, while the Pico 4 is rocking at 8GB. But besides the headset, we of course also have the VR controllers, with both companies using the cameras on the headset to track their controllers, with the biggest notable difference being the arc of the sensors. Where Quest has a ring in front of them, the one from Pico goes over your hand, with the idea that this will create less collision with your controllers. However, personally, I didn't notice that much difference, although I do have to say that it is a huge step up from their previous controllers. But of course, a big shocker was the price and availability, because the Pico 4 base model, which comes in at 128GB, is priced at €429, where the Quest 2 base model of 128GB is priced at €449. That means that the Pico 4 is effectively cheaper than the Quest 2 headset.
Yeah, boy.
But an important thing to note is that it is not available everywhere, with the Pico 4 at the moment mostly only shipping within China and Europe, where the Quest 2 now ships almost worldwide. But in the end, if we only look at the hardware side, the Pico 4 is almost superior on every single level. From the display per eye, to the pancake lenses, as well as the color pass-through, RAM, and even the price. The only hardware specs where the Quest 2 scores higher is that it has a max refresh rate of 120Hz, where the Pico 4 only has a maximum at the moment of 90Hz. But of course, it is not only hardware that sells the headset. So let's talk about the software and games. On the software side, both headsets are capable of hand tracking. But there is one major big difference when we are starting to talk about the games. Because the Quest 2 has a big library of games that is exclusive to Meta. This means that a lot of big titles, like for example Beat Saber, are not playable on the Pico 4. Another big argument that recently came up from a lot of Quest 2 users is that the new Pico 4 does not have a display port. That means that you wouldn't be able to play PC VR games on your Pico 4. But this is not completely true, because Virtual Desktop announced that it will be available for Pico's headset. That means that just like your Quest 2, you will be able to stream all your PC VR games. So the only difference between the libraries will be the Quest 2 exclusives. But Pico is working very hard themselves, even scoring an exclusive deal with the famous games called Just Dance. But even so, it is definitely something to keep in mind. But that gets us to the final conclusion. From the hardware point of view, the Pico 4 headset is almost superior in every single way. This is also mainly due to the Quest 2's release almost over 2 years ago. But from the software perspective, the Quest 2 is still the clear winner, with more exclusive games and more options to play PC VR. But for those people that do not own a VR headset yet and don't want it just for the Meta exclusives, I truly think that the Pico 4 is the best pick for them. Mainly because all the specs are a lot higher at a reduced cost, with the only downside that some of those exclusive titles will not be available. But let me know in the comment section below what your thoughts are on this. Do you already own a Quest 2? And would you upgrade to the Pico 4? Or are you looking to buy your first VR headset?